rib, and it'll be week to week at this point.
Okay. And in the second half, you really seem to adjust well after that first drive by Kansas City. Now that you've had time to reflect, what do you think that your guys did well, or what are some adjustments that you made in order to make that happen?
Well, I thought our defense, is that what you're referring to, the defense there?
Correct.
So I thought the defense finished the game. That was an area that we were focused on coming out of the bye, and I thought the players did a tremendous job, as well as the staff, embracing that mindset and going out there and getting the job done.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Sean. You look at Stephon Diggs, and I feel like expectations for him every week, every season are so high. He came out with, I believe it was 5 over 100 in his first 6, but hasn't reached that mark yet since then. What's your assessment of how he's been playing in recent weeks? His game yesterday, obviously with a couple drops there, and what he's meant to your offense, maybe even while he's not producing at the same level that you've come to expect.
Yeah, Steph is he's an all-pro for a reason. I mean, he's does a great job. He draws a lot of attention, number one, right? So as a number one receiver, week to week, he's going to draw a lot of the double teams and what have you, and he's going to be at the top of the defensive coordinator's game plan in terms of who they need to try and shut down. So within that, he does a good job of even producing, as you mentioned earlier in the year, and then in the last couple of games, I know it's been a little bit maybe up and down, but it's not for lack of his trying or effort or anything like that. The thing I love about it is if you watch some of the plays last night, he was one of the guys out in front when the ball was in somebody's hands, and he was the one out in front blocking, which I think says a lot about his effort and his focus right now.
What do you make of the collection of talent that you have in your running back room right now, and how Joe Brady has been using James Cook, Latavius Murray, and Ty Johnson, who is kind of increasing his role here over the last couple of weeks?
Right, I've been very impressed. All 3 backs have ability, all 3 just a little bit different than the next, and in terms of their skill set and what they do, and very impressed with Latavius's veteran leadership in the room as well, and that's an intangible that is much needed in a room. So just very pleased with the way those 3 have been helping us in all different parts of our offense.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Coach. Ed made a big impact kind of from the beginning of the game with participating in the sack on Mahomes in the second drive, and then obviously the end with the tip pass. Just what has he meant to this team this season, and kind of the impact he's had?
Right. Ed's game yesterday was a little bit quiet, right, compared to other games that he's had. The thing I loved about it was he continued to work throughout the game, didn't get discouraged, continued to go out there, and then made that big play that you mentioned in the 2-minute drive where he knocked the ball down. I think that was a huge play. I mean, that's not easy to do, right? When you got to time it up just right, and his technique was right on point.
Hey, Sean. To start, I just wanted to check on Micah. Did you have an injury update on him?
I do. Micah had that stinger after the game, so he will also be week to week at this point.
And I know you got this last night, but just with more information now, is that kind of re-injuring what he had before? Is it something new? Like, where does that injury fall?
I couldn't tell you really specifically. I didn't ask that specific question this go around. It's just a reoccurring injury in that same area more than anything right now, Kathy.
Gotcha. And then anything else coming out for guys out of yesterday?
Just Dalton Kincaid kind of re-aggravated his shoulder a little bit, but he'll be day to day.
Gotcha. What did you see of Dalton and Dawson now that they're back on the field again together, with Dawson coming back? Yeah,
it looked like both contributed. I thought it was good to get Dawson out there, get him involved early, had the catch over the middle, and took a big hit on that to boot. So that was good to see him respond and get up from that. So both, I thought, did some really good things, and it was good to have those guys back out there working together.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, John Worrell.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. I know you probably went over a bit of this post game, but in the big picture, I know it's one game, it's one win in a long season, but given the circumstances that led up to the game, just how much can this light a spark, or how important might this win be going forward for you and the team?
Well, like you said, it's one game. We have to focus on the next game, which is the Cowboys this week, John, as you're aware. And but super proud of the guys and the way that they played, the effort they gave, the way they stuck together. When you're playing in games like that against good football teams, well-coached teams, you know it's going to be at least a 60-minute game. And so to come out of there with the win, I think says a lot about their focus, their mentality right now, and again, where we can go as a football team.
And what did it mean to you? We saw the video that was posted later on the Bills website of Brandon, of your speech, and Terry Pagula behind you clapping, and Brandon Bean handing you the game ball. That hug looked like a very warm one. What did you make of that situation and your reaction?
Yeah, thanks for that. He'll laugh at that question, John. He'll laugh at that. But no, it meant a lot to me. It really did. First and foremost, it meant a lot the way that the players and staff came together and played and coached, and just kept it about the game. I think that in the midst of everything that was going on last week for us as a team was impressive to watch and to see. And the support that I've gotten, like I've said, from in-house, from outside, across the NFL community has been just super gratifying and much appreciated on our part.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. Just kind of to follow on that, we've talked an awful lot about, especially with last year and everything that this team has been through in terms of dealing with adversity. Last week, as you referenced, was obviously a little bit different, but you kind of roll all that in, and to win a close game, especially there, I mean, how much does that really validate what you've been trying to kind of teach and preach and all of those things at such a critical point in the season with a big one against Dallas coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, Adam. I mean, our guys have been working really hard, and I know we haven't gotten all the results that we've wanted to this point, but there's been lessons in every one of those games, right? And now we're getting into the part of the season where we use those lessons. Not that we weren't trying to before, but those lessons, we're using those and the resiliency that's built in our football team to move us forward. And again, when you can go into a place like Arrowhead with that type of crowd and that type of environment and come out with a win, that's a big challenge. And our guys did that, and I'm so proud of them for it. And we move ahead to this week now. That's where our focus has to be. We've got to move ahead and got a very good opponent coming in here, and we've got to obviously put our time in. It's going to be a big challenge for us, but at home, it's been a few weeks since we've been home, and we're looking forward to being in front of our crowd again here.
All right, Sean, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. I hope you're doing well. A lot of the guys talk about hitting quarterbacks and how much that affects them throughout the course of the game. What went into keeping Mahomes in the pocket so much last night? Obviously, you used to spy from time to time, but it just seemed like your rush lanes were pretty consistently.
They were. Appreciate you mentioning that and noticing it. Quite honestly, that's hard to do. Patrick likes to scramble quite a bit, in particular in those key moments of the game. And he got out once or twice, but I thought overall our defensive plan, our defensive line in particular, did a great job being coordinated, working well off of one another, and staying aggressive at the same time. And I think that's the key. And we thought we lost him earlier on a third down that he completed over the middle to Kelsey, and we went to spy the next play, and were able to get off the field there on the following third down. So it was a good balance, but primarily our front four did a phenomenal job.
It seemed like you did that well in the first half against the Eagles, but maybe it broke down a little bit in the second half. Was that a bigger emphasis throughout the course of the week?
It was, and I think that just goes back to making sure we're on the same page, and then carrying that discipline and the focus you have to have in order to sustain your level of play into the fourth quarter and beyond. And So when you can maintain your focus, maintain your discipline, you're able to sustain, hopefully, your playmaking ability, and that's what we were able to do yesterday.
How much do you think yesterday was proof that just about any quarterback can be affected by hitting them? I mean, Mahomes obviously makes a lot of plays where you think you have him and he's loose, but it just seemed like you're able to affect him quite a bit hitting him.
Well, I think most quarterbacks, when they're affected, it bothers them, right, in some way, shape, or form. Some more than others, to your point. But I thought we got off to a great start with the first third down when our defensive front four made it happen on their own. I mean, obviously the coverage was good behind them, but they got after the quarterback early, and then from there it usually just snowballs from there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I was curious now, 3 games in and off the bye week as well, just Joe Brady has 3 games as OC. How do you kind of feel like that's gone over that sample size and kind of coming off the bye with a game? How would you evaluate him?
Yeah, I think Joe's done a good job. The way that he's collaborated with the staff, the way he's led both the players and the staff, certain plays last night and every game, quite honestly, you're going to want back. But I walked into the meeting this morning, and Joe's in there, and he's teaching, he's coaching, and they're communicating as a staff, and I think that's part of leadership, and it was good to see him here.
And then I was curious with Dawson coming back and kind of, we had talked about reintegrating him with Dalton and kind of getting the two of them on the field and all of that. How did you feel like that went? And is that kind of more of what you'd like to see with both of them healthy?
Well, I think it's going to be, as Elaine, as I said late last week, it's going to be a game plan type of approach, right? And I think probably more difficult than people know when you introduce a player who hasn't been in the lineup for, in this case, 6 weeks, like Dawson, when you introduce them back into the rhythm of the offense, and how you do that effectively without the offense, really taking a step back, right? So I thought that was proportionate to the plan, and we'll see where it goes this week.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I know we've talked about how Vaughn's situation is kind of fluid with, if updates come in. So I was just wondering what you felt about the decision to have him active yesterday, both from a holistic and from a football standpoint, and then if it's the same moving forward.
Yeah, first holistically with what he has going on outside, no new information, as I mentioned, late in the week. So where we are with that, there's no information to make a decision on, or no new information to make a decision on at this point. So we will stay up to date as possible on that. And then from a football standpoint, I thought he did some things this week that were a little bit different than he had showed in the past, in terms of putting a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. I think he hit the quarterback another time in there. So I thought we started to see, an uptick in some of the production there.
And then with AJ now being week to week, just what has he meant to this team if you are to not have him for a little bit?
Yeah, he's had one of those years where you're waiting for it, right? And you're hoping for it, and credit him. He's put the work in. He's changed some of his routine week to week. And, he's reaped the benefits of that. I think Coach Washington and AJ have gotten on the same page, and AJ's had a better understanding now this year what we expect. And you see the production. I mean, really from early in the season all the way through the season, including last night, although he was not only out there for a series or two, I believe it was. So just super proud of him. And if he is out, we'll miss him, but we look forward to getting him back.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean, you mentioned your running back room and kind of the diversity of talent you have there. James Cook, another really strong game, over 100 yards, but only about 45% of the snaps. Is there anything you're looking from him to have him get more playing time in that rotation, or do you just kind of like having that running back by committee approach?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of, hey, what does the game plan entail? What type of different things are we looking to do with the 3 different backs that we have? And I think our offensive staff, led by Coach Skip in this case, and then Coach Cromer, they put together a good run plan, and they use all 3 of those guys effectively. So sometimes running backs can wear down also, and that's not to say that that's why we're not playing, James. It's right now he's a young player. We're going to continue to develop him and hopefully have him playing his best on the stretcher.
And then with Micah potentially missing some time going forward, what have you seen in Taylor as he's kind of grown more comfortable with the defense as the season's gone along?
More and more comfortable with what we do and how we expect it to look. Taylor is one of our hardest workers. I can promise you that. True pro, true pleasure and joy to work with. And, we're just super confident in him.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, sorry, one more for you. I will mention too at the top, some fans have mentioned the background there in your Windows 10, and they really, the tech ones really want you to update to Windows 11, apparently. So
Is that right?
Is that right? Along for some of the fans.
We'll have to get my IT guy in here, and he can update it for me because I have no idea how to do that.
Me either. But I thought
I thought that was pretty advanced.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a Mac guy, so I don't know. I know you love those deep questions that take you deep into the conversation a little bit, and you'll probably love this one. But, I was struck by your answer yesterday when you talked about the support you received this week and mentioning specifically people in the community, Buffalo people that you've met since you've been here. And I'm curious not only what that meant to you, because, I've lived in another state before. I grew up here. And, having that kind of community elsewhere when you don't have your family was important to me. So I'm curious from your perspective, if you could take us into that a little bit, what that was like having that Buffalo support this past couple of days.
So you have good neighbors, right? I mean, it's incredible. When a town or a city embraces you and your family, and listen, I know we've had ups and downs as on the football field this year at times, and we do every year, right? But the unyielding support and love that this community has shown me and my family over the years, number one, plus in particular over the last couple of days, was just incredible and a true blessing that we are very grateful for. Obviously I'm biased now, but Buffalo, I don't think people give Buffalo enough credit for what type of place this is and the types of people that live here, and not just Buffalo, but all of Western New York. It's and really fans of the Bills, to be honest with you, fans of the Sabres. It's just it's a unique, tight knit group, and I think what we saw as a family over the last couple of days speaks for itself.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, Josh Reed here. Thanks for taking some time this afternoon. Just a quick question for you. Daquan Jones, how close is he at this point, and how optimistic are you that you're going to get him back soon?
Yeah, there's a chance, Josh, that we get him back. He's working his tail off. I mean, he is here every day. He's got a great attitude, a great outlook on a daily basis, and we'll see where it goes. We're kind of getting into the phase of he's putting in a lot of work with our training staff, with our strength and conditioning staff, and starting to really make those football type movements. From here, it's really, I wait on them to tell me, hey, when is the green light come on? And we're probably between red and yellow right now and moving in that direction, going towards green at some point here.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Joe, ready to get started with questions?
Yep, sounds good.
Great. First question will be from Alex.
Yeah, hey Joe. It seemed like James Cook was really a catalyst for your offense yesterday, and you seemed to go away from him a bit late in the third quarter. 2 drives, I believe he didn't touch the ball. What was the reason from going away from him at that time?
I don't think it was a product of going away from him. I think it was, um, at the end of the day, we went 3 and out 2 times, right? And so I think that makes it tough when, we stayed off schedule a little bit early in that, in the first play of the drives, we had 2 pass plays, thinking much out of it. And then now you're behind the drive, off schedule. And then you get in the third down. Obviously, if you get the drive going, you love to kind of get him going, but there was nothing in particular for, hey, why he did touch the ball in those 2 drives.
All right, and Gabe Davis, once again, didn't record a catch. What did you see from him yesterday that may have limited his production?
Look, I think I think every game there's going to be some guys. It's going to be impossible to get everybody involved every game. I think there's like I said a couple weeks ago, there's so much that goes into a guy getting a catch and getting a touch. With the way the game is getting played, I think there's, you'll watch tape and you'll see there's times where, hey, Gabe is open and you love to be able to get him the ball, but there's a lot of things that kind of go on, with it, whether it's protection, whether it's coverage, whether it's just progression in the throw. So a lot that goes on to it. Obviously, I love to get Gabe going a little more. Need to get Gabe going more. He's too good of a football player, to get that. But yes, that's kind of where we're at with that.
And Dawson Knox's return to the lineup seemed to produce well. How did you see his impact overall affect things offensively?
Yeah, I mean, it gives us another weapon to, be a little more versatile. And, he was able to make plays in the pass game, go in there and like he played a lot of plays for not playing in a lot of weeks. And just kind of a testament to him and who he is and how he's been training. And it's always good to have him in there and being able to, go 12 personnel, go 21 personnel and kind of mix it up with that. So I was pleased with Dawson coming back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, Ryan O'Halloran from the Buffalo News. Looking ahead to Sunday with Dallas, how unique of a player is Micah Parsons, both in terms of his talent, but also how Dan Quinn moves him around?
I mean, when I was a GA at Penn State, Micah came to camp and he was obviously like the top defensive end or, top player in the country in high school. And he decided he wanted to play wide receiver for the camp. And he was the best wide receiver in the camp. Like that, everything he's doing in the NFL doesn't surprise me at all. An absolute freak of an athlete. And, Dan does an unbelievable job of moving around and getting them on matchups and mismatches. And there's really not much that he can't do. And it'll be a great opportunity for us this week.
Most of the time they call out the Mike linebacker at the line of scrimmage. Is he one of those guys where you have to identify where he is pre-snap all the time?
Yeah, I think, it's the trend that the league is kind of going to. We saw that, going against Chris Jones last night. Like, these dynamic defensive linemen, and just dynamic football players, you got to know where they are at every given play. And, the defense coordinators do such a good job of knowing that and kind of, playing chess with it a little bit. So it'll be important that we're accounting for him at every single snap and, making sure that we're not putting ourselves at a disadvantage.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe, if you could, can you take us into that last drive, 5 minutes? I think you guys had it for 12 plays, how you felt that it went. And like, once you're getting there towards the red zone, the philosophy, especially at the 2:17 mark of the play calls that you dialed up there, I'm sure you probably would have liked the completion there on the Diggs play. Was there any thought at all into a run play to try to force them to use those timeouts? Just take us into that drive and some of the thoughts that you had there.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, when you get the drive at 5 minutes, you're just trying to get your best plays. You're trying to find a way to score points, right? So you're not thinking. You're at the end of the day, you're trying to get into field goal range to start and then try to go get a touchdown. And so once we got there, they got the penalty on the third down, and so we got an opportunity to kind of, I think it was like 2:12 or something right there at that point. And so, we call the RPO, the run play. We spit it out. They brought the pressure, spit out the Steph. In hindsight, on the first down play, you'd love for that to be a potentially getting a run. Now we give that up to Josh because they do blitz it. You spit out to Steph. Some of the bubbles have been good for us prior in the game. But that might be one in the hindsight that I believe, like, hey, in that situation, maybe just get a run it, call it run. After that point, it's 2nd and 10, and I think the natural inclination is, hey, we need to get them. They're not going to burn timeouts then. They're gonna you don't burn your timeouts until after the 2 minutes. So our thought process was, hey, we get in that situation. If you run it right there and it's 2nd and 10, Spags usually does a great job of dialing the pressures like he's done in the whole game. And so, hey, what run do you like in pressure situation? You're either going to get man or you're going to get pressure. And so you can either run the ball and, give Josh Allen and say it's not a great run, give Josh Allen one opportunity, or I can give him 2 opportunities right there. And so our mindset going into the game was we're going to be aggressive. And you look back to last year, you had a similar situation where we threw the one-on-one to Gabe in the same end zone, threw Steph in the one-on-one to Gabe in this, or excuse me, threw Steph in the same situation. And so I thought, like, in that 2nd down is like, hey, I wasn't trying to settle for a field goal. I wanted to score a touchdown. And, obviously neither of those ended up working out from that standpoint, but I was going to be aggressive. And that's kind of how it kind of shaped up from that. Obviously Josh wants that throw back to Steph. You got the matchup, the look that we wanted, but we just didn't cash in on it.
No, I appreciate that. That's great insight. Everything that happened last week, changing gears a little bit with Sean, he mentioned when you took over the job that when you came onto the staff, obviously you guys had similar paths and, you knew people, but he didn't know you very well. How much have you gotten to know him over the last year and a half from your vantage point? How difficult was last week and what he went through, and what did you learn about him in the way that he handled everything and got you all ready to play on Sunday?
Yeah, naturally, you can go back to when I'm in college. You're a William Mary guy, and you're following the Sean McDermotts, the Mike Tomlins, the guys that, once I realized I wasn't a good enough football player, that I wanted to be a coach. And, you start following these guys and kind of seeing their paths, and, you're watching their press conferences and seeing how they're handling things. And, so even though he didn't know me, I had been following his career for a while. I kind of knew a lot about him, and my head coach in college, coached him and, spoke the world of him. And so when I got the opportunity here, I wanted to make sure, I got him, I wanted to work for a guy that, I believed in, and that, had the character that I wanted to work for. And so it was a tough week for us, naturally. I'd do anything for Coach McDermott, and I don't say that just as an interim OC. I'd say that as the QB coach. I believe in who he is as a man and his character, and I think everybody in here too does. So obviously a tough week. Proud of the way that the guys kind of responded, yesterday and through a tough week and find a way to get a win.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Hi, Joe. This is Jay with the Buffalo News. Has there been a concerted effort on your part to involve the running backs, particularly James, but really the group as a whole, a bit more in the passing game?
Yeah, I think, look, if there's 5 offensive linemen on the field, and if they have to defend the other 6, it's I hope that it puts a little stress on the defensive coordinators, right? And you got Josh Allen that you have to, in any given play, you got to be ready for him in the run game and the pass game. And now just, with the weapons that we have, just being able to utilize all of them both, all the running backs in that situation where any given play, they can't just, hey, dial up a pressure knowing that those guys are going to be, blocking, or, hey, or do we like this coverage? Well, hey, who's matching up on the running back? And whether we're using it or whether we're not, at least they have to think about it. And so, I think that that's important. And, I was proud of the way that Jimbo kind of responded. Last week, he had a similar situation, and, when he dropped it. And I said last week I had full faith, and I still do. And the work that he put in last week, and we rep those plays, and, Josh trusted him, and he made a big play. And so I think utilizing those running backs just helps. It opens up paths for, the receivers and the tight ends where, we're not necessarily one-dimensional and, predictable about where the ball's going.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Coach, I know you were asked about the end of the game situation by Matt. I want to go back to the end of the first half situation and, what you feel happened there, the communication. And I guess should have asked Coach McDermott about, not kicking a field goal, but just from your standpoint and not being able to come away with an opportunity for points until the Hail Mary.
Yeah, no, that's a drive. Once you get in that position, the second and 1, the second one, or 1st and 10, the second one, the 10-second runoff, changes a lot on the plays, right? So you go back to, I believe it was 27 seconds where we take a shot in the end zone. Probably love to get, at least get a little closer to guarantee the field goal range before taking the shot. But once you take that 10-second runoff with no timeouts, the clock starts shrinking in terms of what kind of plays you want. So just the communication with myself, Coach McDermott, our people in the box of, hey, what are we, where do we got to get to kind of get into that situation? Josh was smart about the next play. The clock was kind of running down. We felt like it wasn't the look he wants. We just darted it and give us an opportunity to, hey, decide whether we're going to kick a deep field goal, or we're going to go for the Hail Mary in that situation. And we felt like it was based on where we were on the yard line. It was the best opportunity was for the Hail Mary. And so obviously from an offensive standpoint, you'd love to get closer where T-Bass can, you feel confident in T-Bass making it. So we got to do a better job of getting points there where, hey, at the end of the game, they need a touchdown and not just a field goal, because we found a way to double dip and get points at the end of half and in the beginning.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up that play, the Josh. So that was basically he didn't get the look he wanted. So hey, let's just get rid of this ball quick and live to fight one more down.
Yeah,
Okay.
Basically.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Joe, looking ahead to the Cowboys game, I know you talked about Micah Parsons a little bit, but what type of test will this be for the offensive line, and why have you been pleased with the season that they've had so far?
Yeah, I mean, like it's the way that their defense is playing right now. I mean, they're kind of clicking on all cylinders. They do a great job, rushing the passer. They got a bunch of different weapons, and they're creating turnovers, and they're turning those turnovers into picks. I mean, I was with Steph Gilmore in Carolina. I know the elite player that he is, as we all know here in Buffalo. And then you got Blandon on the opposite side of him, who's breaking records with what he's doing. So they're affecting the run, they're affecting the pass, and then they're making the most of opportunities with the takeaways. And so it's going to be a great opportunity for us. And our offensive line, like I love the way that they're the grit that they kind of play with. It's not always going to be pretty, but I know that I can depend on them, especially at the end of the games. And I've been proud of the way that even if the end of the second half, the first drive, obviously we'd like to get points, but those couple 3-and-out drives, and then we got a couple penalties on the third drive in the second half, but there was no putting the heads down, no doubt in our guys' mind that we were going to find a way to get it done in the offensive line. Knowing that last drive of the game, we were able to run the ball a little bit, have some success. They did a good job of protecting, and so kind of shows the kind of guys that we have up front that we're going to play for however long we need to, and we got full faith those guys are going to protect us and open up the windows, for the running game if we need to, especially at the end of the games.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe. It seems like the last couple of weeks, Josh has been more willing to use his legs, whether it's on scrambles, whether it's design calls. How much has that opened up some other stuff that you'd like to do, whether it's in the run game with the RPOs or, throws down?
Yeah, I think, like I said, with the running back thoughts, like, and on any given play, they got to be ready for Josh Allen to utilize his legs. We know the dynamic that he is, and he's not a running back, right? Like, we know that he can stand in the pocket and make any throw on the field. So for a defense coordinator to have to be ready for that, but then also have to be worrisome of, okay, well, hey, are we going to cage him in the pass rush? What's our pass rush going to look like where we can't let him get out of the pocket? And when he does, do we have someone accounting for him? So there's so much to it. So both being able to scheme up run plays for him to run it, but also knowing, hey, in the pass game, he's going to naturally do it. It just puts a lot of stress on defenses. And when they have to defend that and know that, he's such a, kind of freak when he is running with the football, that it makes it real tough on them. And I'm all for it when a play breaks down, like he's a human eraser and he makes plays. He makes bad play calls work. And so I'm very fortunate for that.
It seems like some of that has led to using more empty sets. How does that kind of help you attack a defense in a different way when, you're empty, but you still got a guy that's a threat to run?
Yeah, no, exactly. They obviously did a good job last night. We ran a QB draw and they did a good job at the front, with the twists, and stopping it, like one of the early drives we were talking about with getting James Cook going. But when you go empty, you try to paint a picture, you clear out the box for the quarterback. And, I think it's, defense is obviously doing a really good job of trying to disguise stuff. So it's not as easy. It used to be, a few years back, but Josh does such a good job of being able to see it and just opens up the windows for him. And he has a comfort level with it. And so from a week to week standpoint, we kind of look to see, hey, is it, do we like some of our matchups in empty? And if we don't, we're not going to force the issue with it. But if we do, we feel like, there's some advantages of seeing Josh both in the pass game and the run game.
In the second half there, when their front four was kind of starting to come downhill a little bit, was there anything that their defense did that negated maybe a running back draw or maybe an old fashioned screen that you just couldn't follow in that situation?
Yeah, I think like a lot of it wasn't necessarily just, Spags does a great job of bringing pressure, right? So, there's a lot more that comes down to, hey, when, you might see a 4-man rush play, but it doesn't necessarily mean, that's some of his tendencies or whatnot. And so being able to scheme it up, at the right time and the right moment with it. I think the biggest thing, like we talked about, was you want to stay on schedule. You want to stay in what we call the green, where, 1st and 10, and next, you're not in 2nd and 7+ or 2nd, off schedule. And we kind of did that too much in the second half. Well, once you get in that situation, hey, defenses can get in their 3rd down defenses. They can start heating you up, blitzing you, and you're figuring out, hey, what's the best, course of action. So, yeah, those things cross my mind for sure. We just have to do a better job of staying on schedule where, we can kind of dial up whatever we want. We're the ones kind of, in the attack mode for sure.
Thanks.
Hey Joe, I was curious, when you look at Josh and Steph's connection and not getting quite as many receptions and a lot of targets, maybe not as many receptions as he had at other times of the season, is there anything that stands out to you as maybe why that is, why that, number hasn't been as high? Or is that just kind of, obviously Steph, someone's defenses are going to really focus in on, but what stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, some of the targets yesterday were bubbles, right? And, you'd love to be able to get Steph going a little more downfield and whatnot. We've played the last couple of weeks. We've played really good defenses that, their big plan is obviously revolves around Steph Diggs, right? And so that's what's opened up some of the windows for, James Cooks and the Dalton Kincaids, Khalil Shakir's a few weeks back, right? So when he's not getting the targets or when he's not getting the catches, he's opened up the windows for other people. And he's not a decoy. I don't mean it by that. Like, we're calling plays to get Steph Diggs the ball, but if they're going to take it away, Josh is doing a good job progressing and finding the other outlets. And so obviously we love to get Steph going a little more. He's too good of a football player. He's an elite number 1 wide receiver. I want him to come out of the games, with more than, catching bubbles and stuff like that. So, but I think some of that is just a product of the way some of the defense has been facing with that and opening up opportunities for other guys.
And then I was just curious, on a completely different note, haven't talked to you since the bye week. How did you use that time? Was there anything you kind of like focused in on, like with that extra time to plan or anything like that? Like, how did you kind of end up approaching that entire week?
We just wanted to just kind of look at what we've done, both from a full season standpoint, and then specifically the previous 2 games, and what can we do with a guy like Dawson coming back, or hey, how can we get our running backs to continue to evolve in the pass game? Just little things of more of focusing on us and what we can do better to try to put our players in better position to have success. And obviously would have loved to score more points yesterday, but like I said last week, all I care about is scoring 1 more point than them and finding a way to come away with a victory. So I was pleased with how our coaching staff came together last week to self-scout and kind of figure out what we can do well. And I hope that, some of that stuff kind of shows up moving forward.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe, you brought DJ onto the staff during the bye week. What's his role during the week, and how much of a benefit is it to have him that he knows your process?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It was just getting you're down a body, right? And just getting a guy that kind of knows how I think and my process. And, I know his work ethic. I know his character. I know how he kind of approaches things. And so it just helps having a guy that kind of knows me as well, not just bringing in somebody, from the outside that doesn't know our system or ideas or whatnot. So I'm excited to have him here, and, he'll kind of just stay ahead, stay advanced on some of the opponents that we're going to be facing, and kind of just helping me with and the rest of the coaches with whatever's needed.
Great. Thank you.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Hi, Coach. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
We will go ahead and get started with questions. First question will be from Maddie.
Hey, Coach, you guys got a game coming up against the Dallas Cowboys. I know you probably haven't done much research yet, but they're one of the best teams in the NFL offensively. So what do you have to do to slow down what they've been doing the last few weeks on offense?
Well, you have to make sure that they remain one-dimensional. And so we can anticipate some of the things that we'll get from their passing game, from the quarterback, where he's excelled. And the formula is, it rotates back to our goals, our ambitions, and that's to, take the football away from them and give our offense as many opportunities as possible.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
1 second. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Obviously as somebody that, that has known Sean for a long time, what was last week like for you, not only as like, a coach on his staff, but as a friend?
Well, last week, without diminishing the significance of some of the things that went on, last week was a week where we had to continue to focus and get ready to play an explosive offense, a championship caliber team. That's what last week was about for me professionally. Personally, the best way that I can have Sean's back or that I can help him is to make sure that I'm doing the absolute best that I can at my job, and to make sure that the things that I'm here for are intact, they are well attended to, and we're ready to play. So for me, it was about making sure that we're ready to go for Kansas City, and that we continue to just make sure that all those things, the things that we're here to do, are taken care of.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Coach. Ed made some big impact plays in yesterday's game, kind of the biggest one being that tipped pass in the game. I was just wondering what he's like as a leader on the defensive line. After the game, he said, like, that's what they pay me for, about like the plays he made. But obviously he's a big part of the team's future. I was kind of wondering what his personality is like at practice and stuff like that.
Well, Ed, understands that his leadership, the impact that he can have for our football team, is best coupled with how he performs and how he practices. The leading by example piece, not to go into a well-worn cliche, but he understands that the quality of his actions, the consistency of his habits, are the best things that he can do to put himself in a position to be productive and to lead our team in the way that fits his personality. Ed is he's got a great personality, but at the same time, when it's time to go to work, he's very serious, very focused young man, and he's a very prideful person. He wants to play well, and I really respect that about him, and it really has served us well this year.
Hey, Eric. Sean shared with us that AJ Epinesa is week to week, so he could miss some time, kind of still being determined. But just what have you seen from him development-wise over the course of this season, and what has he meant to this defense?
Well, it seems like every time AJ steps on the field, it appears as though he's doing something, extremely impactful for our defense and for our team. And yesterday was no different. I mean, that the play that he was able to make was huge in terms of stopping the momentum that Kansas City had on the first drive, taking the football away, being in the right position and doing it within the context of the call and the situation and the scheme. AJ's ready to go. His practice habits are outstanding, the way he studies and prepares himself. So there's nothing that he's doing that's surprising to me or the rest of the members of our position group.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's all the questions for today. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.